Okay, so we're back, and I've kept my camera in a warmer spot so it's not fogging up this morning, which is kind of nice. Got the car up on the quick jack, which is really pretty handy. They're way off the ground as far as she'll go. So I've been procrastinating a little on this because I am not a fabricator at all. I like fixing things, but I can be kind of a parts replacer and a theory diagnoser, but I am not a builder. But we're going to try to become one a little bit, because I got to get the exhaust on this thing. Because before I get the exhaust, I can't put anything related to EFI or anything like that. And then I still have to redo the entire fuel system from the tank all the way forward and then back. So we got our 2.5-inch Magnaflows. I think they're 24-inch long or something like that, 28-inch, about the longest ones they make. Straight throughs, similar to what was on it, just bigger. And then I've got some hangers, because I want these under the running boards. And I'm thinking, I found these things, which are kind of neat. They've got an extra thing welded on it, where you've got a rod that sticks off. And I'm thinking I can build something off the side of the frame, or I can go straight through the frame if it'll work, if it'll be clear the running boards, and then use that rod to support the muffler wherever I want it. And I got 4 of them, 2 for each side, and then that will take care of the muffler mount. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We're going to be up under here somewhere, is my intent. Yeah, and put that rod either straight through the frame here, or make some tabs that are rubber mounted to the frame that come down however far it needs to. It looks like it may need to be a ways down. And then run that rod straight through and mount it and hold that exhaust about here, which is kind of what I'm hoping to do. Got that other box over there with the black on it, that is some heat shielding that I'm going to put up underneath the running boards where the exhaust is going to run. Try to keep it from blistering the paint. That's my only real concern. Worst case, if it does that, I'll end up going old school and putting the rubber vinyl, the rubber mat that goes over the top of this thing on the running board. It won't be as good, but hopefully the heat shielding will work. But I'm not sure on that. But yeah, my intent is, again, come out of the headers, kick over in front of where the jack mount is up there, then turn and come straight back down, and then kick it out the side with a 45 or something just to spit it out underneath the running board. And we'll see how all that's going to work. I think I've got enough pipe. That's all the pipe over there. Seems to have made it. It's interesting, it's flare-ended, so it'll actually fit, you know, the small ends will actually fit inside this. That's not really what I want. I'm going to end up trying to TIG all of the seams that I can, size to size, just for cleanliness sake, so I don't need 47,000 clamps. But the other thing I've done is I found these little guys, which are kind of ball and socket joint, that I'm intending to weld right onto here, like that. And then that will give me certainly a place to disconnect it if I need to drop the exhaust for whatever reason, without having to drop the entire header piece all the way back like the last one. And it'll also give me a little bit of wobble, because in case I misalign whatever I'm doing from the front, this will give me a little bit of flexibility to do that. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to videotape, because it's going to be a lot of me kind of holding stuff and staring at it for a long time before I actually try to do something. But I guess what I will do is I'll set this thing down in the back, kind of have it try to look up at what I'm looking at, and I'm going to hold this thing up under there for the first time and see what kind of clearance I'm going to end up with to see how I'm going to make this work. You know, I'd like to have it where these point in towards the frame, but if that doesn't work, I can always flip them around, and then that mount doesn't matter which side it sticks out of. So either way, that I think I'm going to make that work. So I'll be back in a second. we're definitely going to have to make some extensions to hold it down a little bit. Not sure how far back I want it. I suppose I could go about as far back as this, especially as I'm going to have to make some extensions. But that might work if I get it all the way back here and get it mounted. It's not really going to be much lower than the running board, which is good, and it's going to be higher than this frame rail tip point, which is good. And then we'll just have my turnout right there, and I don't suppose that's going to stay. Ugh. Sketchy. And I was looking, and I saw that it's possible that this 45 might just work. Put it in this way so it holds itself. That might just work. Put it on something like that. And now she's spitting outside of the wheels, outside of the tires. Turn it down a little bit even. And that may just work. I kind of like that. So now I got to think about how I'm going to do the frame mounts, and I may have to go get a couple of jack stands, because these jacks are wonderful, but because of where I'm mounting this, they're going to end up plumb in the way of me doing my work back here. But I kind of like that. And I could even mount it about that low, and that's a good distance away from the painted surface, which is kind of nice. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. Alright, well, you let me stare at something for an hour, and I might come up with something that I can work with. Now, okay, what I think I'm going to be able to do is this. Use the hanger, but just flip it upside down and put a hole just through the frame and use the threaded rod for that. Keep it on top. Then I'll be able to put pinch bolts on the threaded rod across the frame here and just have one nut on the outside over here, and that'll drop the whole exhaust system off. That would be pretty slick. And it's going to be still right at the level of this, so it's not terribly low. This isn't how it's going to go on. It'll go on the other way, but this is about how the exhaust will angle out, which will clear this. If I want to put a little baloney cut oval on it or something that sticks out a little ways, chrome, you know, something, just something other than steel, that would work. And it really isn't going to require too much fabric cobbling, I don't think, other than drilling a hole and cutting up some of that threaded rod over there. This may actually function. And looks like I'm clear on the other side to do it as well. Nice thing is there's space up above this plate here. This is just a plate, like a little brace underneath this A-frame here, so that doesn't extend up into this. There was a little bit of something back there. What do I got? But there's enough room for me to be able to get a nut on it, I think. Yeah, alright, this is boxed in at the top, but there's enough room in there to get a nut on the threaded rod from the backside, snug it up, and then clamp it hard over here with another one, and then we can just slide this on. I'll probably end up having to cut this off short So it's just barely inside that nut, so it pulls in all the way to the frame without having that bump it too much. There'll be a piece of rubber in there just to isolate it a little bit. But I think that will work. The other one, I'll have to just move the transmission cooler because it's in the way, but it's just tech screwed on right now. And the new transmission has a Mondo double fan cooler that's going to go in that empty space in the frame there. So that's going to come out anyway. So that's no big deal. I can zip tie that out of the way for the interim. And strangely, I don't really know why, there's already a hole up here where I can start my hanger for this end. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look around a little bit more, but I think I'm going to mark a couple of holes, drill them, and see if I can get this side hung. American Airlines coming in. Alright, weirdly, there's insulation in the frame. Didn't know that. But I had to pull out some of that crap to clear a path, but that's pretty slick if I do say so myself. I'll end up getting some metal stop nuts so that the rubber doesn't melt, rather than elastic stop nuts. But I just held the muffler up there, and that is pretty slick. Like I said, I'm going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment on the back side here, just for clearance. But looking at it from here, I actually managed to even miss the existing cooler. And it's pretty square with the brace and parallel. I actually used this thing to drill through and held it up against the frame kind of as a guide so I could set my hole and try to get it as square to the frame as possible. It seemed to work pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to go down here and figure out exactly where I want that one to be, because this one doesn't have a hole to start with. The nice thing is there's another hole exactly in the same spot on the other side, which is just fantastic, so I can know I will have the mufflers hanging in right about the same spot. So I like it so far. We're in pretty good shape. All right. I have to say, it's not 100% because I got to shorten the U-bolts so that they'll fit, but I am rather pleased with that. As you can see, it's at the same level or just a snot higher than the lower 4-link bar. So that's pretty good. I don't think I'm going to get any better than that, as simple as that was, just boring and using an existing hole. I think that may have been a nutsert for something, but it was obviously never used. So it's gone, and now we have that up front, and now we have this. And that's about how the turnout's going to work. And I think that's pretty darn sharp. I am rather pleased with at least this piece of the exhaust. Now, it's going to be louder than the last one, and I haven't rubber mounted it yet. Right now I want to get it all hung, so at least I can start sticking some metal together and working on that front end, how to get it out of the headers and get it to this thing. But I am pretty darn happy with that. And we have, even as pushed in as it is right now, right up against the nut on the threaded rod hanger, it is not touching the frame. So we've got good clearance. Those little clamps, that worked slick. I am pretty darn happy with that. Those are some Amazon specials. I'll put them on my Amazon affiliate if anybody else is doing weird exhaust hangy stuff like this and you're putting some round mufflers in. They worked pretty darn good. So I'm gonna go cut a little bit off of these U-bolts and see what else. See if I can finish getting this to where it'll tighten up. Okay, and there she is. Perfect. All cut off the length. Little standoff in the back. We've got some good clearance to the frame. Not too low, I don't think. You can actually come at it from a little higher above in the front as the frame goes up a little. I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Looks like I'll be able to keep the exhaust above the front cross member the whole way, which will be kind of nice. And I guess that ball joint will be kind of nice because I'll be able to kick it out and kind of parallel the frame a little bit better. So, yep, I'm real happy with that. That's not going anywhere. Might be drony as hell because it's attached right to the frame, but she's fixed. She's not moving. So now to lather, rinse, and repeat. Alright, so one thing I know I'm going to have to do, since I am going to be hard mounting, obviously, the exhaust, is restrict the engine's ability to flop around. It is on rubber motor mounts. And obviously if the exhaust is not hung by rubber, and the engine is, and the engine torques when you stand on it, something else is going to move, and the exhaust is not going to be able to do that. So what I intend to do is figure out a way to run a chain from somewhere on the block over on this side down to the frame, because they'll torque this way, and that'll just restrict the movement enough where, you know, it'll transfer all its movement into the car and not into twisting my exhaust off the frame. And the benefit of that is the less torque you have trying to move things on the car independently of it, like the engine flopping around, the more torque you have available to move the whole unit. And I do remember, it was kind of weird, I didn't think it would be significant, but I did that on my Firebird way back in the day, and just chaining that engine down so it could not move on the motor mounts was worth 1/10 in the 60 foot on that car, which blew my mind. But, you know, so it's going to be required because the exhaust is hard mounted, obviously, and probably, you know, if it ever does get traction, it's absolutely worth doing, just from a, you know, let's take all the flex out of it that we can. Now, I'm not going to put hard engine mounts in it, probably a little bit too much yet, but at least a chain, a restrictor on the driver's side to keep it from flopping over is going to be where we're going to start. All right. So we got the other side hung. They're both within a 1/4 inch, which is pretty good for me. Still just above the lower 4-link mount. Same thing in the front, same hole, so that's nice. And I think I'm going to throw the closer up, throw the cover over it, and call it for today, because as always, we get a thunderstorm coming in. And right now it's 95 degrees with an 80-degree dew point, so it's kind of warm, a little bit muggy, and so yeah. Anyway, we're gonna give my neighbor a text and see if he might be around tomorrow, because we're about ready to start welding on this exhaust system. We won't be welding on the car because I don't want to burn up any of the electronics like has happened in the past. But yeah, so hope everybody's having a good day. We'll talk to y'all hopefully tomorrow.